Hi everyone and welcome back to my version of the Bob Ross trend that's all over YouTube right now. I'm a huge fan of Bob Ross since that was my first experience with ASMR without even realizing it. So the painting we're going to recreate today is Grey Mountain. I love how this has all the typical Bob Ross elements such as mountains, pine trees, and happy little bushes. First of all, I need the right equipment. This includes paint, a palette knives, and brushes. And of course, we need the all-important fan brush, which shows up in every Bob Ross video. Instead of a canvas, I'm going to be painting on Daiso Clay so we can press the final result into slime. Daiso Clay comes in this funny shape, so the first thing I want to do is trim it into a rectangle. Use a sharp knife or dental floss for this. I have another Daiso painting slime in this video, so you can check that out here if you want. The most important part of painting clay is to prevent it from drying out. To do this, start with some face wipes or baby wipes. Place a thick layer onto the table and this will continuously release moisture into the clay. Then wrap up all the edges using more wipes. And now we're ready to start the joy of painting.
So let's start out with the old 2-inch brush, a little tiny one. Take a little bit of the Indian yellow, load a little color on the brush, and let's go right up here.
So Bob Ross always uses oil paint, but I'm going to be using watercolor instead. Watercolor is the best option for painting Daiso Clay because the pigments can be easily pressed apart. Right now, he's covered the canvas with liquid white, which thins the oil paint to create this translucent wash of yellow. To mimic this effect, I'm simply diluting my paint with lots of water.
Right above the yellow, still making our little crisp here.
I find the surface of Daiso Clay surprisingly similar to paper and quite pleasant to work with. You have to let each layer dry a bit before applying another color, otherwise they'll bleed into each other instead of creating this nice smooth transition.
Knife. Now you have to make your first major decision. Where does your mountain live? Maybe in our world? Yep, it does now. Our mountain lives right there.
So even though my canvas is tiny, making mountains worked surprisingly well using a palette knife.
This is a chance to really get tough. Take out all your frustrations and hostilities and whatever. Maybe there's another little peak right there. Wherever you want them. Wherever you want them. This technique is so fantastic because it allows you individuality. We use no patterns, no tracings. And we just want to show you technique and turn you loose on the world.
Now this part is my favorite from every Bob Ross tutorial. I was surprised at how easy and satisfying it is to add snow, which immediately makes the mountains look so much more realistic.
Touch, no pressure, and just follow right down the mountain there. But no pressure, absolutely no pressure. There, if you've painted with us before, you've probably heard me talk about when I was teaching my son Steve to paint. I used to tell him just to pretend that he was a whisper that just floated right across the mountain. And that way he understood how delicate of a touch. So maybe that's a good analogy, good way to remember it. Just be a whisper that floats across here.
Even though I've watched every Bob Ross video, this is actually my first attempt at painting one myself. So I literally can't wait for the final step, which is to make some happy little trees. Unfortunately, my Daiso Clay canvas was far too small for the fan brush, but the same method worked perfectly with a different one.
And let's have in our world some happy little evergreen trees. Just use the corner of the brush, and as you work down the tree, push harder and harder, bending the bristles. Down here, ooh, we're really getting tough. We're just bending it all the way down to the furrow. Get tough. Show it who's boss. These little evergreens live right in your fan brush. You just sort of at times have to really get forceful and push them out. There they go. Here comes another one.
I realized that it's really important to lay down the bright colors at the very beginning because Bob Ross paintings rely heavily on contrast.
We use no patterns and no tracings.
My sky and water are slightly too pale, and this is very difficult to fix once you've added all the details on top.
You'll just practice a little.
But on the whole, I'm very pleased with how this turned out, and it was an incredibly relaxing experience. So if you've only ever watched Bob Ross videos and never tried painting anything yourself, then I would totally recommend giving it a try. If you use normal canvas, then acrylic paint will work perfectly and is cheaper and easier than oils. If you want to see more painting tips, then you can also check out this video here. This took about 30 minutes to paint, and the wet wipes kept the clay soft all this time. For the final part, I'm going to use a ready-made slime that came as part of these fruit cup kits. This one is yellow, and I want to add some food coloring to make it look more like a Bob Ross green color. And now it's time to mix everything together, so please enjoy. I hope you liked this video, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram under my username Macaroon. I'm Joanna, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!